Did you know Dump City is slam poetry? Hey everyone, Brento here. Welcome to another episode of Dump City. I'm here in King's March and I'm going to do some mapping soon. Here's how I do my mapping. I had some difficulty the past week. I wanted to be level 87 and I couldn't clear some content. I'm not much further ahead than I was last episode. I was 84 at the start of last episode, only gained 2 levels. In a way, I've hit the wall. Okay, and this has happened the past 2 seasons. And part of this episode is to teach you some of the things that I recalled from previous seasons and a few things I've discovered in my third attempt at playing Path of Exile. I was stuck at level 85 for longer than I want to admit, okay? Before we get too into that, check this out. See this here? That's called Bane. You ever see that on a sidewalk? Don't walk on that sidewalk. See this purple stuff on the ground? See how Bane works? It applies a curse to a... You'll notice too here. See, there's only one support gem activating it here. But in actuality, this is the support gem right there. That's the one. And there's Bane. But it does apply a curse. Just take note, though, the curse has to be lower level than Bane itself. So we'll play around a little bit with that. What's on the show this week, you ask? Well, we're going to go over the best Pantheon. I put a bit of research into that. I had to improve my character. I had to get over the wall. So I made some decisions on what Pantheons I'm going to do. I've also got a new word for old men. And then finally, we'll talk about an eye for loot and the things that I'm starting to look for after 3 seasons of play in terms of items that you want to pick up. Can you spot a good item? So we'll go over some examples of that later, because if you can't spot a good item, you're going to have difficulty getting to level 95 Soul of Southbound. After last episode and where I am now, my build, I've doubled my DPS and I've doubled my effective hit points. And I basically just am using the same loot I had in my bags. Okay? It's not necessarily about finding the best thing. Just organize your stuff a little bit. So I'll show you how I did that. What's the item of the week, you ask? Well, you probably noticed this little spell here with 8 linked, support gems. How is that possible? Believe it or not, it's a one-hander. It's called Replica Bitter Dream. This is the item of the week. Is this Ice Spear a useful skill? Not really, but not for me at least. And I don't think this would work for any melee character, but it could be interesting for a caster class. This is an 8-linked spell. We'll put some Bane on things. Check that out. See, look at this. There's some... Look how much Ice Spear damage I can do in the Act 10 area here. Isn't that amazing? This isn't my new build, okay? But it's just kind of neat that this Bitter Dream can do that. And this Bane, look at this. Even the Bane itself, I'm cursing them when I do this. See the curse they get on them? But it also is killing them too, so that's pretty cool. The runner-up item, it's not. I found another cool item this week here. Let me just... I'm just going to switch... to this attack here and kill them with my normal attack. Ooh, wow. Found a unique just playing around in the entry area. Maybe that's a good omen for the episode. But runner-up item of the week, we're going to go with this ring here. Okay, look at that. It lets me put an additional curse. So if you wanted to go crazy, like let's say you had a fire build, right? You could put elemental weakness and you could put some fire weakness too on top of that. That'd be cool. Maybe the Bane alone, each stack of it is 40% more damage. So you combine that with the right support gems, could be really effective. And finally, there's a giant spider in my inventory. I don't know. We'll look at how that works later. Before we get too into the Pantheons and Eye for Loot, let's do more tips for noobs. So are you running out of space? Is that one of the problems you're having as a noob player? Here's one tip. Put some of your gems you're leveling on some of your backup items and store them that way. See, I had a few more gems here before, but I'm putting them here too to be a little bit more efficient with my space. Okay. Another thing is these tinctures are really good. Okay. If you can get your mana usage to almost zero or zero, preferably, crafting things and getting certain skills put together where you basically don't need mana. Okay. Or it seems like you don't need mana. The only issue I have with these tinctures is they basically activate. Here, I'll show you one just in action here. When I activate it, it goes until all my mana basically disappears. See how my mana starts disappearing here? So it's okay first, but then you have no mana. So that's the only problem with them early on, but they are kind of useful later. So in case of you were wondering what tinctures do, I assume you're a noob watching this. That's what they do. That's how they work. Another idea is to cast minions. Okay, minions are another way to get you to last a little bit longer. So if you're dying too much, see, Dominating Blow is incredible. Like, I'm going to start using this for a little bit at least. Part of me getting a little bit stronger was getting a minion, a big, strong minion. This one's much better than some of the other ones because you can get so many. See where it says I can have, basically with a single gem here, I can have up to 13 minions fighting for me. And the big ones, the rare ones, and the magic ones are really strong. And I don't even, like, I got a couple of support gems, but they're there more just for leveling purposes. Like, I could do without them. So get yourself a minion, get yourself a meat shield if you're dying too much. Another thing you might want to do is the SSF ladder is more useful for studying gear than the trade ladder because you get, the Elon Musks and the trade ladder who just basically buy the items and get to level 100 with ease. The SSF ladder, I think, there's more thought to it. There's more intelligence to it because the budget, there's a time budget and you can't trade to get these items. So it gives you ideas, realistic ideas that you could do to get further up. Okay. You got to basically develop an eye for loot. Another tip for a noob here is organize your flasks. I threw out half my flasks. I've been collecting these for quite a while, and I'm going to get rid of all these other ones here eventually once I do some crafting shortly. And I've limited to one of every type of flask here. I have a whole tab devoted to this, and it's like a tournament system for my flasks. So later, if I need a certain type of flask for a certain type of fight, I know that I'll be getting the best jade flask that I found. Obviously, this isn't even a magic one. It's probably not that high level even, like level 70. I haven't found many of these for whatever reason. Some of them I've found ridiculous amounts and I'm throwing them away, but jade flasks just haven't been found. So organize your flask, keep the best of each one. Don't keep 20 of you. Like, what I do is I keep, it looks like there's up to 18 possible of the basic types here. Maybe there's a few more. And then I'll have a few magic ones or unique ones here. And maybe some alternate versions of, like, the silver flask is one of the best flasks. Okay. Just every player knows this. You've probably figured this out. So you might want to have an alternate silver flask and have at least one version of every type of flask just available. Just like, you never know what kind of encounter you may get stuck on, and then you can swap some flasks. And finally, most importantly, don't give up. This game it's a challenge, right? You're trying to get as far as you can, and noobs typically, getting to level 86 is a bit challenging for the average noob, okay? I got past this in my first season, but I was in a trade league, so if you're a solo self-found, this might be the wall for you, okay? If you're in a trade league, you're going to experience the walls soon, so just bear that in mind. So you got to make your character better and better. The number one thing in Path of Exile is make a good character. Devote a lot of your time. Your skill at actually playing the game is actually not nearly as important. A billionaire could show up one day and just start playing a character if someone does all the actual work for them, okay? And that work is choose your skills, choose your items, and put a lot of thought into it. So just don't give up. It's a lot of work, and you'll be rewarded with getting further. And it is, as you get better geared up and better organized with your character, it does get easier to play the game. So just bear that in mind. So without further ado, let's get into the Pantheons, one of the main topics of the episode. So yes, I decided on my Pantheons after last episode. I basically wrote down the data and put together the results. Okay, so I'm going to share you the best Pantheons that I found on other players. Now, this could vary by class, and it definitely varies by class, so use some common sense here. But I'll try to explain why I think they're the best Pantheons and sort of summarize all the Pantheons for you, because if you can't decide which ones you want, which is probably why you're watching this video, maybe just this extra information will make you make a final decision, okay? Pros can probably do this in their sleep, but a noob, you need a bit of help. Older games, okay, it's not just Path of Exile. I've seen this in World of Tanks. I've seen this because I've played lots of games, okay? There are some games that are still popular after a decade. And the problem is you have a community of people that have been around for over a decade and they're being catered to. And then when new players come along, they're like, what the heck are you talking about? What do you mean rippy map? What does that even mean, right? So that's kind of why I'm making this, okay? I think World of Tanks would also be another candidate for some noob videos as well, just an FYI. But back onto it here. So in terms of what to look for in Pantheon, first thing you might want to consider too is go to your map view, okay? So you want to get your Pantheons chosen, and you want to make this quick and efficient, and you don't want to spend too much thinking. First thing you do, type Pantheon, okay? Take note of where all the Pantheons are. Get a pen or go into Notepad, write down where they are. The maps are located in different spots. Some of the Pantheons I need are up here. Okay, I can't see them yet, but just type Pantheon in this view here, in the map view. And then, once you know every one, as you collect your maps, always create one copy in an area where you store your divine vessels, okay? As you know, you do a map with a divine vessel, you kill the boss, you get that Pantheon ability, okay? So at least have one map just as a reference. So you don't have to be, do I have this Pantheon or not? Well, if the map's still there, you don't, okay? So this is just the broad set. Eventually, you kind of want to get all of them, okay? If you play long enough, you will get you'll get enough divine vessels, you'll get every ability, and you'll switch them based on the situation. And just bear that in mind too. A lot of the Pantheons are, especially the minor Pantheons, you're going to switch them up as needed, though you might want to have a default one for, business as usual scenarios. This website here, I'll create a link to it, and check out your class. Right now we're playing this SFSF Keepers League here. And I was just, I'll just look up some random player here. Okay, this is looks like the top player. That's a Berserker. Okay, this guy's not a Berserker. I'm playing a Berserker, so I can look here. So this is how you do it. Okay, so what's your best Pantheon for your class? Well, this guy went with the Brian King and Shakiri. Okay, so that's a data point. So what I did was for my class, I looked at the top 10. I made a list and figured out what the most common ones and said, okay. And then thought about it, why did they choose this? This same process probably makes sense for you. So basically I'll link this website in the description and go there and look around to see basically where you would get your best Pantheons. Look at the top builds to get some data. Keep in mind too, some of these players might have just left certain Pantheons on for a certain context fight. So there's some people who might even change them for every single fight. So don't, it's not like they take those and leave those set in stone for the entire season. They're constantly swapping them because they have probably enough divine vessels at this point. But you want to have a guide. You need to start with a Pantheon, a go-to one to begin with, before becoming choosy, right? A few more things here. Always hit Alt on your maps here. See how it says incomplete? Okay, just keep that in mind when doing your maps. So if I'm here, do I have this Pantheon? Yeah, I've done this one before, but I put it in this section before. Because the reason this is here is because when I killed this earlier, I didn't bring a Divine Vessel with me, so I don't have the Pantheon. So this section is kind of the Pantheons that I will eventually do. However, I have written down specifically the Pantheons I need. The ones for, in my case, will be for the Brine King. I need to do Underground, Sea, and Beach, which I haven't even discovered yet, okay? Those are the ones I'm going to choose. Here's a basic summary of each one, of the 4 major ones. So when you choose the Brine King, Purity of Elements, which gives you freeze immunity, becomes kind of redundant, okay? Because if you get the second one, or if you capture him in a veil, you can't be, like, 100% chance not to be frozen. So the purpose of the Brine King essentially is to break your dependency on other skills that give you freeze and stun immunity. Like you here I have a potion that I'm using for now, okay, because right now I don't have any kind of freeze immunity, but this will eventually give you that. So that's the benefit of it. If you don't have those anywhere else, it's a good value for that. I'll actually do these in order of popularity that I found this season, okay? This was the most popular one, was the Brine King, okay? And I actually, in previous seasons, I'd say I used that the most as well. The next most popular one actually is this one here, the Soul of Solaris. The too long didn't read version of it is if you have a lot of crit reduction stats, you'll see how it kind of requires you to take a crit to get some of the benefits. This means if you have crit reduction, you probably don't want this. The next most popular one was the Soul of Lunaris, and it adds another layer of defenses. It's this is really good when you have lots of monsters. When you're doing thick monster packs, maybe Delve or something, this would be really good for. Just a lot of stuff, but no single target, difficult bully kind of things. This would really suck, I think, if you're, 1v1 versus a boss. So this is the third most popular one, as I saw it. And then the last most popular one was this Soul of Arakali, which I think is good if you aren't immune to poison and corrupted blood. It's if you see something that might lower your chaos resistance too, if it's cursing you, this will give you extra resilience against that. So for that reason, this is the number. This is the least popular one. And in terms of the minor gods, I'm not going to go into every one, but the 2 most popular ones I found this season were this one here, Shakiri, which it looks like it's, poison mitigation. So you don't need as much, you don't need these flasks here that make you immune to poison, or at least you don't rely on the flask as much, right? So this is another popular one. And the other popular one was Garukan. Okay, I guess the shock. This is a good value rather than going crazy with getting shock immunity. Just pick this, maybe specifically, for bosses that can shock you. But these were the 2 most popular minor passives. Honorable mention to Aberith, again for fire. There's certain bosses, certain fights. There's a lot of fire. You'll want to pick this one up as your minor. But I think, basically those are the most popular minor ones. And the most popular major one is Brine King, with Solaris being number 2. So yeah, that's basically the best Pantheons. Again, adjust as needed. But if I was to prioritize, look at what's top of the ladder this season and, work your way towards, get the key ones first, and then get everyone eventually. Be sure to write down, though, specifically which ones you need. So even though you'll want to collect every single map there is that has a Pantheon eligibility, and keep one of them isolated, you'll also want to be aware of the most important ones on a separate piece of paper, just as a sticky notepad or something like that, just to remind you which ones to do first as your divine vessels come in. Okay, so basically, yeah, that's the best Pantheons, and maybe that'll help you get over the wall. It's one little thing you have to do, but if you do it, you'll just be a little bit better. Let's move on to the interlude of the show. This is Dump City again. Another way this show could have worked was me just being commentary. It's much easier. I can yap on for literally hours commentating on the silliness of the world and how dumb some people are, the rich and the powerful, and just how dumb they are. Okay, it's that in itself could be a show, but I also just do random silly things, and I have a new word for old men. Okay, that's I've been thinking about this all week. This would be the topic: a new word for old men, but it has to be a good word. Okay, it's gotta have some substance to it, and it has to be genuinely a new word. Okay, so what's that new word? It's Hoojamadoddle. Okay, Hoojamadoddle. I don't know. I'm not, maybe I'm getting old, but I'm not quite that old. But I will use that word as I get even older. And if you're really old, Hoojamadoddle. Okay, it's similar to Kokamami or Hoopla. I guess that's an alternative. Okay, so there's a new word for old men. I don't know. Maybe that's not interesting. Maybe that's, if you're a young person watching this, probably more young people are watching this than old men. So you could share that with somebody you know that's older. Hoojamadoddle. But I got a bonus idea here, okay? I actually wrote something extra just in case this wasn't funny enough or entertaining enough for someone to be interested in. It's the bonus idea for the interlude here is a way to get uber dorks of Reddit frothing at the mouth. How do you do that? Go onto the PoE Reddit forum. I don't know if I'm going to dare do this because I'll lose all my karma if I do this. But go onto the Path of Exile Reddit forum and make a suggestion that PvP exists for solo self-found and battle records are kept so that I could go build my character, go to a PvP area and play against other players, and it's a scoring system. It will keep track of wins and losses in duels for solo self-found. And if you want to see the mutant nerds of solo self-found get very angry because of this idea, suggest it only should exist in solo self-found because that's the only fair way to test skill in the game. When you have trade in a game, when you have capitalism in a game, you allow people with more capital to come in and just build a character that will always win. Okay, so suggest it only exists because then you're going to piss off the solo self-found people who don't want to do PvP anyways. Okay, most people don't. I wouldn't care. I'd probably do it for a bit, to be honest. But you're also pissing off the capitalists who think that life is fair, who want to do the PvP, and denying them that ability. So if you want to really piss off the mutant nerds of Reddit, suggest that battle records and PvP exist for solo self-found, but not for any other format. All right, let's move on here. Let's go to another section here where we can see some other interesting things happening in let's go to the hideout here. We'll talk about an eye for loot now, okay? This might be the most important thing you're going to do in the game, is to be able to pick good items. Okay, so before, like I mentioned earlier, I doubled my DPS, I doubled my tankiness just by going through my bags. It might end up being that if you're watching this in a weekend and you're like, I'm at the wall, I give up, I don't know how to go further. The first step is go through your bags and see what you have in there. This is where I found all my stuff to do this. Okay, so one of the first things I did, I looked for redundancies. I had about 5 variations of gems that had a 2-handed melee weapon. I limited this to just one of them. Okay, there's only one left. In some cases, you might want to have 2. Okay, but don't have 5 versions of an item you might not even be using. Just have the best of each type in your inventory. Don't waste space. Throw out the garbage. Okay, that's the first step of going to the next level. Know what is crap and what isn't crap. only one of these is really good. The rest is crap. Maybe you could sell your second best one if you're a trade league. I don't know. Figure that out. If it is quite possible that you will have two very good jewels and one slightly better than the other. Okay, maybe keep that on a backup tab. But basically, remove the redundancies. Okay. Same with like rings and stuff with resistances and stats. See, this here has intelligence and dexterity on it. That's what makes this ring special. Okay. The rest of the stuff on it is actually not very good. I could craft something on it, but this is the ring I wear to level up gems that have to reach level 20, then reset themselves back to 1 once I, improve their quality to 20, right? So I like to have at least one ring and some amulets that have high int, high dex, but I don't need 5 versions of this. Okay, so I threw out a bunch of rings, a bunch of amulets by the same principle. Okay, same with resistances. This has 73 lightning resistance on this one ring. Do I need another good lightning resistance ring? Not really, right? Choose the best. This is part of having an eye for loot. Don't be having 2 or 3 items that effectively do the same thing, and you're always, which one of the 3 I'm going to choose? Start throwing out the inferior versions of it, okay? Then restrict the storage space, okay? Don't be having just a broad area where everything's thrown around. This is my area for rings and amulets right now, okay? Anything beyond this, it's not considered part of my active build. I can put it on backup tabs, and then I can put it in the crafting area because I might want to improve it. And then I can put it here if I don't know where to, I might want to trade it, even though I'm in a solo self-found league, but this is like my bonus tab. But usually stuff that ends up here ends up in the trash bin later. So that's sort of the process of it. You might not necessarily want to trash it immediately, but get it out of view and get your best items sort of in front of you as your best options. Okay, so narrow down the amount of items you're just looking at in principle. Okay, keep this to a sensible number of amulets, and it's a tournament process. Okay, same with weapons and things. I don't have too many of them. I threw out over half my gear. That's how I got over the wall. Because I realized half the stuff here isn't going to be used. And yeah, I spent an evening doing that. So once you restrict your slots for the gear and restrict the number of items you have, then you go back to good old path of building, okay? So something I did was, I think, watch the path of building episode. I'm not going to explain how path of building works again, okay? I assume that you've got this installed by now. If you want to get over the wall, the too long didn't read version of it as what you're going to get here is just basically load up your character, load up your basic items, and then this is the next stage, I would say, is go in and set your gear to none for a bunch of things like this. Basically, what you want to do is take all your top contending items that you've narrowed down. This is how I found out my items, okay? But I couldn't tell for sure, what was the best ring. So I hit Control, you select an item, make sure you got focus on the game, Control C, and then you go back into Path of Building, hit Control V, okay? Then you add to build. Okay, so now I have this ring. Okay, so how do I know if this ring's better than all the other rings? What makes it better? What is the best ring, all things equal? Okay, you want to get the best items on your character as a priority, the most distinctly good items. If you know, in economics, there's this thing called comparative advantage. If you know what that means, you understand what's going on here. Okay, so you want to choose the best comparative advantage item, the most distinctly good ring or the most distinctly good boots there are, and try to find the most distinctly good items in slots first. Then when it comes to other items that aren't so distinctly good, just put in what you need to fill in the stats. Okay, so before doing this, my resistances, I didn't have regular caps on resistance. I needed purity of elements. After doing this process, I maxed out my resistances, I maxed out my chaos resistance, and I didn't even need purity of elements to do that. Okay? Because I discovered some items weren't better than I realized. So the process I'll do here is basically load up your main attack and then see how much DPS your combined DPS is. And remember, it doesn't necessarily consider other things, so consider that when you're comparing items. There are some things it can't calculate. But if it is calculating everything on the item, consider how much DPS it does, look at the effective hit pool you get from that item, and then go through every item. So this one here has 33k plus 12.4. Let's say that's 45.4, okay, for this ring. How much is this ring? Okay, this is 43.9, maybe 44. Yeah, that's pretty good. The point is just go through every single one of your rings here and do that with each slot of notable items. This is why you had to clean up your bags, okay? Because you don't want to do this for 50 different things. Use common sense. You can eyeball what's good and bad in the first stage of this. The second stage is this will come up with a score. Write down your scores. I looked at for each slot, like my body armor, I can't change. Okay, this is the only 6-link armor I have. That's going to be there no matter what. The question is what goes good with it. Okay, I have all these rings, all these amulets, and all these other slots were variable in my build. My shield was also variable too. Okay, so I was able to, and the reason you set none, okay, is because what it will do is when it calculates effective hit points, it kind of takes the average of your skills here, and it basically, like if you're capped in a resistance, for example, because of your other gear or other items, it won't reflect that in the scoring. So you want it to score all things equal, okay? Where every bit of resistance counts, every bit of, shield or attack speed counts, okay? You want it to all matter. Okay, so especially with resistances, if you don't set these to none, then do the comparison, and you'll be near the cap, and then something else that's really good, it won't count as being any much of an improvement over before because it's ignoring the resistance. So ensure that everything on the item is counted by setting these to none and then choosing better items. So just go through that for many items. Likewise, go through it with your skills too, okay? In general, the skills on the outer side of the skill tree are stronger than the ones closer to the origin. Okay, so do a lot of A/B testing. What gives you more? It's your combined, I weigh them equally in my setup here. The DPS and the effective hit points, I just sum them up. Whichever is better is what I'm scoring. Again, I don't have my DPS maxed out right here, but it's all just about relative items and relative skills, okay? Later on, you can do a more fine-tuned version of this. In my situation, I found out that my hit rating, my accuracy was very low. I didn't realize how important accuracy was, okay? So intermediately, I took this node here, which increased my global accuracy. It turned out to make a big difference. But since then, I've decided I'm going to use this skill here, okay? If you're on the other end of the skill tree, you won't have that, but this taught me something. This will make a massive difference in my DPS given how low my accuracy is. They can't evade it, right? And I don't have much crit, so this is really good for me. For you, this might be absolutely trash, okay? But for some people, it would be good. Another one on this segment of the board was this here. I might go into heavy block, right? So keep that in mind too. Look for these outer skills on the board here. I've only partially started improving my character since realizing the problems with it, and I've doubled my DPS and my hit points. Again, not finding a single new item in the game. Just so organizing my stuff and going through this process of identifying the distinctly good items and putting them on my character. Okay? Another thing too is when comparing items though, keep in mind that some of them, like this here, this has 5 affixes. This here, this has 5, that's good. A lot of these have 5. Some of them have 6. Okay, all things equal, choose the 5 because you can craft on some more attributes on the 5s. So always take 5s versus 6s if they don't have a crafted attribute. And 4s, I don't know. 4s I usually put on the crafting tab for some other purpose, okay? But usually your best items are going to have more affixes in general, okay? Another thing too, I've also created a new intake tab here. This was my ring zone here where I was crafting my rings. I now make this as my all goods come in. I don't keep as many rings. There's only a few types of rings, a few amulets that I craft here. These type of amulets get combined. These type of rings get combined. And I always keep amethyst rings. And this is where stuff comes in. You got to be picky with what comes in. You don't want to keep everything. You got to start, as you get higher up, you got to realize you need more and more perfect gear. Stop thinking about trading too much. Destroy stuff that's going to waste your time thinking. Okay, so that's the new, set something that's like this up with your intake so that you at least aren't looking at so much noise and you're just better organized so you can spot your good items to build your good character. It's all there. Another thing when looking at items, see this belt here? This was the best belt I had, and I had no idea. When I put that in Path of Building, Soul Bond, between the DPS and the effective tank points that this gave, the effective hit points, this scored better than this belt. There's like these belts here. Look at this belt. Look how much life is on this belt. Look at that. That's 180 life, and this only has 50 life, but this is the better belt. I didn't know that until I used Path of Building because those are very high rolled resistances. Okay, the amount of resistance this offers offsets the life issues. That said, I didn't throw this belt away because once I get better and better resistances on other things, this will become the new advantageous belt to put in unless something else falls in between. So the too long didn't read version of it, again, I'll use that term because I don't know, whatever, is you want to look for very high rolls. Don't look for anything that has like under 30 resist. Like if you have 5 resist all, that's not a good stat. Okay, I'm just going to say you should consider that as a, basically empty stat. Look for strong stats and multiple of them. Okay, so that's what you look for in gear. Okay, these are the best things that were left. A lot of stuff I was just holding on to because maybe it had one good roll on it, but I just got rid of it. And then as you fill in more slots, once your key items, like your best items are put in, then you put in other items to match the resistances. In this case, I just needed a little bit more chaos resistance. So these boots were wonderful. They kind of suck in other ways, but I don't have many other boots, okay? And no matter how I looked at it, they're still better than these boots. No matter how many ways I tried this, okay? It always scored better in terms of toughness. That last little bit of chaos resistance was worth it. Plus, that has a lot of life. This doesn't have any life on it. That's the problem, right? So having for my class, at least life is a good idea. So maybe your second or third best ring, maybe your fourth best ring is what gets in. But the key is you want everything. You want to have max resistances, including your chaos resistance. Look at that. Well, virtually maxed. But now I'm not dying as much. In short, this ring, this belt, these boots, and these gloves, and this shield were not on my character last week. These are all basically introduced because I didn't realize I had picked all the wrong items. So that's a big thing. And then other thing I failed at between weeks is I had one of those trial of ascendancies to unlock my last 2 ascendancy points, and I failed at it. And I haven't found another one since. But if you want to get over the hurdle, if you want to get to level 90s and beyond, you're going to have to obviously have all your ascendancies done before then. It's it's very difficult your ascendancies are one of the biggest things to get over the wall. Okay, you got to have all of them done. Though you need to have a certain amount of gearing to do the ascendancy, I guess, right? So basically, yeah, that's what I would say in terms of an eye for loot. It's a process. You got to go through your bags, you got to sort things out. You got to take some time and step back from the problem, build a good character, and then come back at it and things will be easier again. I haven't formally done everything. If I follow everything that I discovered in the past week, I'm going to have 3-4 times the effective hit points and 3-4 times the DPS without really needing any new gear. Okay, which is pretty impressive if you think about that. Just taking the time to do this. So once you hit the wall, that's sort of the summary of it all. Is that you gotta take the time. You gotta go to path to building. You gotta do a bit of research. Look what other people are doing. You gotta go through your bag, sort thing, everything else. Even if you don't do any maps for the entire evening, and you're watching this video, that might be the best solution here. And then eventually you'll get through it, and it'll be a lot easier. So anyways, that's that. And yeah, I'll see you shortly and we'll fight a boss. All right, now on to the part where I make a fool of myself and wipe 6 times with this new build. Well, we'll see. Hopefully not. I'm not quite done with the build. Few things that's happened as I work my way to the final boss here of Primordial blocks. This is a tier 7 map I'm doing right now. So this won't be the hardest version, but let's say you're doing this boss, you're having difficulty with them. Maybe in a future season, this is a higher tier boss and you just want to sort of see how it works. I haven't done it before, or at least I don't recall doing this, so I'll discover it as I go. And you'll learn either from how I kill this boss or how I die from this boss. But since recording earlier, I have captured this essence. So I put a Divine Vessel. The Brine King I can't do yet, but this Solaris one here, there you go. I just added captured Fire and Fury. That was from a map I did in between, so I'm a little bit tougher than before, so we'll see how that helps. But before we go and fight this boss, I'm going to get a Mage Blood, because that would make this a much easier fight. So let's just do this quick. I wonder if I'll get an achievement or an announcement of some sort when I get it. Get a Mage Blood, right? Ooh, that's a nice belt. That's a very nice belt. But not a Mage Blood. We'll see what's here. It's not a Headhunter, not a... Ooh, some other interesting belts here. A lot of life on these belts nowadays. Oh, well. And that spider you're asking about earlier, let's see how this works. I believe you got to put in Ray Spectre, and this is with all these corpses, okay? I actually played the season when this first came out. So what you do is you basically right-click on it, and then you put this here, Ray Spectre, in, and then you put it on. Let's put it on here. Let's see, where's this Ray Spectre? Okay, so this is 7. Look at that, I've got a big spider. Big spider. Now, I think I might have to leave that gem in order to use the Spectre, so we'll see how the big spider helps out with this boss here. Let's see if I can get a bunch of minions here on my way in. Gotta get some minions, make it a little easier. I think I'm going to, in my final build, I think I am going to use these minions. This is so nice. They act as a meat shield. And like, this is basically 2 gems doing this. Like, this is a tier 7. I'm just right clicking here. And yeah, this isn't a tough pack, but still, these are magic monsters. And, you know, that looked pretty easy. A few more things. Well, one more thing before we go in here. I got my first level 20 skill here as these things fade away. Watch. I got Intimidating Cry, level 20. So there you go. That's another reason not to give up. Until your gems are maxed out, you're always getting stronger. So just keep that in mind. Okay, let's go die to this guy. They say this is one of the top, like not the toughest. I think the core boss is the toughest boss. But this one's supposed to be one of them. One of the tougher ones. Let's get a few minions going here. We'll get this going here. We'll get some flasks going, and then we'll just unload into them. See how good this new build is. Again, this is only a little bit into the new build. I don't have, obviously, all the Pantheons I want yet, but I did get some things going here. I probably shouldn't let those boulders run over me here. Holy crap, they move fast. Don't get hit by them. Maybe I should sit on the other side. Get another minion. Get some minions. Minions are good. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Actually, it doesn't even hurt that much. Maybe you just need a good amount of physical. Let's see what else we got here. I don't recall doing this fight. I don't know if this is a new fight or what, but they say it's one of the top... Ooh, jeez. One of the top most difficult builds, or most difficult fights. Jesus. Okay, here we go. Okay, we'll get all the spells going here. We'll get a minion. I think I can get some minions if I just attack them. Wow, that's a nasty spell. I do like the range of this attack too. How I can do a good melee attack from a good distance. Okay, that wasn't too bad. Maybe it's my OP build here. Maybe it's my level 20 skill that's making me so much stronger. My spider's gone. My giant spider disappeared. That was a waste. I probably could have sold that. I don't know. I think there's ways. I think that was actually worth a few chaos, but I'm playing solo self-found and my build's not using it. I think there are some that use it. Anyways, I hope this episode inspires you a little bit to go over your items, go over your build. Just go over the details of it. Like, look for mistakes. Look for cast 1 damage taken, not activating steel skin because steel skin's too high or something like that. Just check over everything. Literally, this character is significantly stronger than last week, and I didn't get any new gear for it. It's basically the same stuff. It's just alternate stuff. Some of the things I'm using I thought were even... Like, they're in my bags before, I just wasn't using. I just didn't know they were there. So, hopefully you enjoyed the episode, and I will see you next week.